Hello and welcome to this military summary for this 12th of July. And today I'm going to be going over the events that have unfolded today, over the past 24 hours. And there hasn't been many changes to the front lines, but there have been a lot of strikes and counterstrikes and all of that. So let's get into it. So specifically, there was this major strike on Nova Kakhovka, which I want to talk about. So this is the building that was targeted in the strike. And I have here credit to sprites here, a before and after of how it looked like before and after the strike. So you can see these were the structures, and then afterwards, this one specifically, it was just leveled off the map. So that's pretty crazy. And here we have a look at Nova Kakovka and some of the houses that were impacted. So even like 2 kilometers, even 3 kilometers away, you had glass shattering, windows breaking, all of that, which is pretty crazy. So these HIMARS that Ukraine is using, that were supplied by the United States, I think they sent like a dozen of them, and we'll see if they send more. I think they probably will, because Biden, he just announced that like another $1 billion would be an aid package would be sent to Ukraine, and that will probably contain more HIMARS because they've been pretty effective. So basically, the Russian claim is that this was not an ammo depot, and that this area was just like um, it was a potassium nitrate warehouse, and that was basically the explanation for why there was such a huge secondary explosion that spread this huge like it looked like a mushroom cloud, this huge cloud with smoke um, all around the city. And then the Ukrainian claim is that it was an ammo depot. And we do know that Ukraine has attacked many of these ammo depots over the past few weeks with these HIMARS. Every day there's a new one that gets destroyed. Even besides the strike on Novokakhovka, there was a strike on here, this town right here, Cherivny, and here another ammo depot was targeted. So you're seeing Ukraine going through and destroying all of the ammo that Russia is moving to the front lines, and that's a major hindrance to Russia's supplying of the front line and to any like future offensives that they're planning around here. So we're gonna have to see how much of a game changer these HIMARS are. But it's not like Russia is not on par, if not better, in terms of like military technology, because Russia, they can easily destroy these HIMARS systems um, with their Iskanders, their Caliber missiles, Kinzhals, all of that. They can easily destroy these shipments from NATO and the United States, and they have been doing that. Even today, I think they struck some of the installments. Specifically, they destroyed some of the HIMARS and like howitzers supplied from NATO and Kryvyi and in Mykolaiv. So both these cities, they were struck pretty hard today, and that was in response to the Novokakhovka strike. Because the Novokakhovka strike, even if it is a legitimate military target, because you can understand why Ukraine would strike it, that even if it wasn't an ammo depot, like that's understandable, because this is a pretty intense conflict, and Russia's also like attacked a lot of industrial facilities, which is understandable because you want to limit the industrial capacity of your opponent. But the result was that there were 7 killed and 80 wounded, and these weren't soldiers; these were civilians. Like there were 6 kids that were they were taken out of the rubble. So, of course, Russia responded, and they inflicted some heavy damage on Ukrainian positions in Mykolaiv and Kryvyi Rih. But either way, it doesn't look good to have a city that you occupied being targeted like that. Anyway, let's move on to the Donbass front, and I want to talk about the events ongoing around Solidar. So I was always of the belief that Striapivka was under Russian control, and Novokamyanka, Volodymyrivka, all these cities right on the eastern side of this road, um, that's on the eastern part of Solidar. I thought that they were safely under Russian control because remember a few months ago, after Russia secured Popasnaya, and Popasna's over here, and they basically landed these paratroopers and secured the towns around here, and then they gained control of the high ground and everything. But it's possible that Russia was then pushed back because these paratroopers, they were not there weren't many of them, and they might have been just like scouting. Uh, they've been like doing like sweeps around these towns, but they weren't actually intending to take control of them just yet before they coalesced their gains. So it is possible that Ukraine did counterattack and that for a while they controlled some of these towns, and now only Russia's coming back to them and taking them as they're planning to attack Solidar head on. But I'm not sure. Either way, there were Russian reports today saying that they're starting to mop up Stryapivka. So I did change the map just to reflect that. So I added in this polygon. So we are seeing the fighting get closer and closer to Solidar, and I do expect Solidar to become the epicenter of a lot of fighting this week. And we'll see if Ukraine stays here or if they withdraw further towards like the northern outskirts of Bakhmut. But I do think it is the Russian plan to flank them from the north, as I talked about yesterday. Okay, so there was also some talks about Seversk. So specifically, by now, it's basically accepted by everyone that Hrihorivka is under Russian control, and we're seeing the shifting of the front lines towards Serebryanka. And Seversk itself, there's been a lot of heavy shelling and a lot of strikes around the area. So that is indicative of a future offensive towards Siversk. We know the same things happening in Bakhmut, and yeah, there's been like non-stop strikes and shelling of these two cities because they are along the new front line that Ukraine has built for itself ever since it withdrew from Severodonetsk and Lysychansk. Another thing I'd like to mention is that I was I did see a video of a strike on some minor town here. Here, this one. So there was this Ukrainian strike on this town called Rudneve. It's very small, not of much value, but this does sort of confirm that Russia has firm control of the eastern bank of the Donets River. There was a lot of talk about Russia sort of losing ground in the forests around here, and even losing these towns, Spivakivka, Zavodi, all these towns around here, around the forest. There are a lot of pro-Ukraine sources saying that they fell, but given the fact that there were still strikes going on around the bank of the Donets River here, I don't see that as likely. I think that the Donets River is becoming more and more irrelevant as time goes on, and the fighting itself is shifting more inward, so we're going to have to see what comes of that. So specifically around Slavyansk, there have been reports from Ukrainian sources of the beginning of a withdrawal towards the city. You're seeing a lot of Ukrainian forces leaving their defensive positions and coalescing around the city to prepare for the inevitable battle here. There was even a report from actually Ukrainian sources that Ivanivka was being attacked. There was fighting around there, which is why I added in this new polygon to indicate that the Russian forces had made some gains around here in these open fields and forests. So we'll see if Russia does try to flank Slavyansk, which I think is possible. They can sort of bypass this forest around here and like attack from here. And then if they're able to successfully cross the river, as I talked about yesterday, they were attacking Raihorodork. Um, so you could see this pincer movement, and then that would sort of make this forest that Ukraine has been utilizing to sort of hide from Russian strikes and everything. It would make it sort of redundant. And last of all, I'm gonna go to the Kharkiv front around here, and I just want to mention that there's just been some positional fighting. Nothing's really happening around here, which is understandable because of all the fighting ongoing on other fronts. Like you have Ukraine on one hand saying they're mobilizing 1 million people to go liberate the southern province, the southern oblasts, and we'll see how that goes. Or we're seeing Russia preparing for their new, I would call it like a phase 3 sort of operation, just to take Soledar, Seversk, Bakhmut, all those cities. But in the meanwhile, we haven't really been seeing many changes to the Kharkiv front. It's mainly just positional fighting, as I said. The only changes were what I mentioned yesterday. But in terms of strikes, every day Kharkiv and surrounding towns get struck. You have today there was heavy shelling of the industrial district in Kharkiv and some other surrounding areas such as Saltovka, Lisny, Slatine. Get strikes on Sirkuni, Ruski Tishki, Derachi. All these like um hubs for the AFU around here. They're being struck, and every day there's like a bunch of these explosions that you see going on, and it's usually like at dawn around that time. You see these strikes going on, which is pretty interesting. That's a pattern that I've noticed. And besides that, there hasn't been much going on here. So that's it for today.